Is Ryan Knight, one of the co-founders of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network, and I'm one of the board members of SETSI, the Social Economy Through Social Inclusion. And again, it's our honor to present to you the final panel for the 2024 People's Social Impact Conference. And I'm gonna ask our illustrious panel to introduce themselves. And I'll start with Filsan, if you'd like to let us know a bit of your background and the remarkable work that you're engaged in.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Pleasure to connect and join this panel and share this virtual space with you all. My name is Filsan Farah. I'm a program leader of VERGE Capital with Pawan nonprofit network located in London, Ontario. And I've been in this role for almost 2 years now. I'm deeply passionate about community finance and just ensuring that the ecosystem continues to thrive and stay connected.
Wonderful. And it is a pleasure to have you here with us. And I'll go to Michelle next, if you want to give a bit of your background on the work that the remarkable work that you've been doing as well.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Michelle Baldwin, and I'm a senior advisor with our transformation team at Community Foundations of Canada. And I've been there for about 3 years, and Community Foundations has 207 community foundations that are part of it. And this particular work is really about unlocking the potential to transform capital and community philanthropy for better futures for all. And so that framing is really about how do we transform power, how are we transforming mindsets, how are we transforming futures. So I bring that lens, and then I also teach governance leadership ethics at Huron University College, which is a lot of fun to augment with that because we're exploring different governance structures, but have been weaving in tech, philanthropy, and systems stewardship into the work that we're doing. So excited to talk about community finance because community foundations have the potential to be community finance intermediaries, and many of them are playing that role. And look forward to being part of this incredible panel, who many of them I already know. So excited to hear what they share.
And again, we're really honored to have you here with us. And I'll go to you, Andre, next, just to get a bit of your background and the work that you're already engaged in.
Hello, bonjour, namaskar, Andre Vashist. I'm in a very lively household today, so there's some kitties in the background. I apologize. It's a day. So yeah, I'm with the Philanthropic Foundations of Canada. I just started that role about 8 months ago. Prior to that, worked with Filsan and Michelle in London on VERGE Capital. And so that's kind of my starting point for really exploring what social finance was. And since that time, I've kind of mentioned, we have to reorient the way we think about money as the tool and how we can use that tool to do in our communities. And so the work around community bonds and impact investment funds, intermediaries, developing nonprofits to be more entrepreneurial, all that kind of work has been very interesting to me. And I look forward to talking more about that.
Excellent. And we really appreciate you being here as well. And to round out the panel, we'll have Otis, if you can give us a bit of background on the work and the roles that you have with Access Community Capital Fund.
Thank you, Ryan. Good day to you all. My name is Otis, and I'm the Director of Programs and Partnerships at Access Community Capital Fund. I've been in this role at Access for a few years, but overall, I'm going on 9 years with Access Community Capital Fund, and where I oversee the client-facing programs where we help with emerging entrepreneurs who are underserved, who are facing challenges getting off the ground, with the training and the mentorship and the financing that they need to get their businesses launched so that they can realize their dreams and their potential for creating and improving income for themselves and their families. And in this role as well, I oversee collaborations that are mutually beneficial to organizations that we partner with and collaborate with, but also for the betterment and adding value to the services that we provide to our clients.
Right. And I love that you oversee the collaborations. Would love to start kind of there for the conversation. Which collaborations or which initiatives would you love to see more of to amplify the work that you're currently doing?
There's so many great collaborations that are already happening in the ecosystem and in the work that we're doing. where we reach out and other folks reach out to us as well in terms of creating those meaningful collaborations so that we can add value to what each other's organization's focus is about, but also with a common purpose for empowering those who are underserved, those who face these traditional barriers to realizing their potential as entrepreneurs. Barriers around financing, where many of the traditional systems that are in place do not work so much as advancing and promoting and enabling the individual's goals and the models that are set up around what is in traditionally sort of more risk-focused type of evaluation when it comes to assessing individuals and reviewing what their plans are and what they have or don't have. That seems to be sort of prevalent. But the work that we do in collaborating with the likes of Alterna Savings that help in sort of facilitating some of the financing that we have going on, that it really puts a focus on the community and how we can leverage the community assets, and looking at shifting the models that and the lens that we view individuals as they come to us and seek help, because sometimes we're the last resort, and sometimes because they've gone elsewhere and they've been told no, or they've been told we can't really help you here. So those are some of the meaningful collaboration. And also everyone in the ecosystem as we work with other lenders, Futurepreneur, ACBN, sort of coming together to recognize the gaps that exist and trying to remove those.
Right. Really appreciate that. And yes, we've been engaged with Access for it's almost 10 years, which is amazing, one as an entrepreneur and as a nonprofit. So Michelle, would love to go to you next, as I feel like the Community Foundations of Canada is like the embodiment of collaboration, since there's so many offices across Canada. But would love to hear from you collaborations that might be important or initiatives coming up that could really amplify your work.
Sure. Well, maybe one to start with, because we're talking about Catalyst Community Finance, is really seeing that there's this opportunity to kind of center place. So community foundations are very much geographically about place, although we're starting to see some beautiful examples of equity focused community foundations as well. But in the context of Catalyst Community Finance, which all of us are really connected to in some way, I'm on the stewardship group. We've been trying to, work through these opportunities to really enhance the ecosystem of how you start up and scale community finance organizations. So we have them in urban settings, rural settings, northern communities across Canada. And so this is all about collaboration, because there's some like Verge Capital that have been around for a while, and then new ones that are starting. So how do we, create that learning between the communities? So we've been working through convenings around community finance and learning communities, creating tools and different ways for that sharing to happen. And then some work around advocacy as well. And so I'm not going to forget to do this, because I know that we have a convening coming up in May. And so just want to make sure people know that we have this amazing in-person gathering, May 29th to the 30th in Saskatoon, bringing folks who this might be work they've already been doing, or those who are really curious through Catalyst Community Finance. So that's one collaboration. And maybe the other I would share that is another place-based community finance example is 7 Gen Cities. So CFC has been a partner in that as well, because we really believe in amplifying the work that's already happening, rather than having to start lots of new pieces. And so there's some work within that of exploring how the future of social and civic infrastructure financing. So building economies that are really, about flourishing, both about humans, but as well as the planet, and working with Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities to build out these circular economies of care. And so it's a really an amazing example of really exploring that in the context of Indigenous and non-Indigenous relationships. And I can provide more information, but I'll stop there.
Hey, and again, as the conversation continues, we'll definitely dig in a bit deeper. But Filsan, would love to get your perspective on how collaborations or any current initiatives that are in place that could really amplify your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. Collaborations are, I mean, just an important part of our ecosystem in general. But particularly for Verge Capital came to be as a result of collaboration, community collaboration. So it's definitely part of the DNA from Verge from the very beginning. Some collaborations and initiatives that we're currently involved in now. Verge Capital just last fall rolled out its second fund in collaboration with SVX called Breakthrough Fund 2. So that's something that we've been, thank you, Ryan, we've been, really excited to continue our supports throughout Southwestern Ontario as a place-based social finance fund. And in particular, I mean, we see a lot of, throughout the country, pressing need for access to housing, affordable housing, supportive housing. So that's something that we've been allocating 50% of our portfolio for, and we recently had just collaborated with a collective in London called the Vision Soho Alliance, led by London Community Foundation, which is a group of 6 nonprofits came together and developers led by LCF, and the aim was to establish the largest affordable housing initiative in London on the grounds of what is an old hospital that has been closed since 2013. So on that front of collaboration, in particular for a very pressing need, that's something that we're really excited to have been collaborating with some great partners in the community. And just to echo what Michelle said, Catalyst Community Finance, that's also another remarkable collaborative that Pillars great to be a member of, and I myself, along with Michelle and some remarkable colleagues, are part of that steward team. So some of the work that's been going on there has really been integral in connecting community finance, both existing and also communities who are looking to start their own social finance intermediaries, whether it's land trusts, and don't have maybe the tools and techniques. So bringing folks together from startup to scale up and really ensuring that the ecosystem is connected and thriving together. And I think the last one I'll touch on is also in my role at the Pillar Nonprofit Network. We've been part of the WinVic Collaborative, which is the Women Entrepreneurship, Women Non-Binary Impact Venture Capital Initiative. And it's a federal initiative with a number of great partners throughout the country, including Spring, SVX, New Power Labs, Founders Fonde, Esplanade. And so it's just a collective that is looking to increase the entrepreneurial programming for women and non-binary entrepreneurs, looking to increase capital, looking to, be investment ready and increase in access to capital. And then on the other side is to increase investor knowledge and becoming more gender lens, having more gender lens investors and contributing to that gap of why women non-binary entrepreneurs are not funded. And then also there's a research element too. So yeah, it's a remarkable time for initiatives, I think, and collaborations in the ecosystem in general. So just excited to be part of a number and excited to hear of what everybody has shared.
Hey, really appreciate that. And yeah, we'll go to Andre, you next, to hear a bit more about the collaborations that you're engaged in or some of the initiatives that are helping to amplify your current work. Oh, I'm not sure, Andre, if you're there. We're not here. You might have dropped off, but continue the conversation. I know with the current work that you're doing, and I love how collaborations are mixed in. And Filsan, actually, I'll stick with you as talking about some of the key priorities that you're currently working on. What are some things that we as an audience should be looking out for and or possibly engage with in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. I think, just in the recent collaboration that I mentioned, WinVic, that's ongoing and part of Pillar's programming, what myself and a colleague at Pillar, Veronica Antipolo, had designed as a program exclusively for women and non-binary entrepreneurs of color in Southwestern Ontario. So I think for me and for us, Pillar, that's a key priority right now. And, when we take a step back and ask ourselves, well, why do we see a gap in funding? Who is funded, and whether it's regional, whether it is in terms of race, whether it is in terms of, you know, underrepresented communities, rural communities, what is the reason there? So this program is particularly addressing that reason, that question of why do we not see more women and non-binary entrepreneurs of color in Southwestern Ontario accessing capital? So really, it is a series of workshops that meets entrepreneurs where they're at, connecting them from the very foundation level of business, foundations of financials, and I think a lot of times we have this big gap in when entrepreneurs apply, and this is what I see sometimes on my side at VERGE, that you know, not everybody has that access to what it means, what documents you need, and what things that you need when you're looking to present to an investor. So meeting entrepreneurs where they're at and helping them in that journey to, hey, these are all the technical tools and knowledge that you will need to get you in a better place when you are accessing capital. And I think the last thing I'll say on that too is pushing ourselves beyond the just capacity building, because I think we see a lot of programs, particularly for women of color, that are just in capacity building and then there's nothing after. So really taking a very conscious and intentional approach to then connect these participants to capital. So, and this is where you know, it's great that we have just a wide breadth of experience in terms of the other partners, so we can actually create a client journey, and so that ensure that these entrepreneurs, participants are not just given all this capacity building and then there's no fourth, you know, and that connects them to accessing capital. And then the last thing too is, you know, social capital. That's something that we don't talk about often, I think, but it is a big part of, I think, what helps entrepreneurs in their journey. So being able to open doors and share connections and introduce people, because that's something that I think goes a long way in helping entrepreneurs in their journey.
Yeah, and the fact that so many things have to happen parallel, it's a testament to your work, because it's difficult to do each thing, getting a person investment ready, actually preparing the capital, and then having both ready when the entrepreneurs are ready. And Otis, I know this is something that Access, I won't say struggles with, but has to balance, where how much do you help entrepreneurs get ready and going out and preparing to get capital. So we'd be curious some key priorities that you're currently working on that helps really move your work forward.
Yeah, so Access really began, the roots of Access began with a focus on facilitating the lending and the business lending side of things. But then over the years, we found that even those who are coming to access their lending were not quite ready yet in terms of having all the necessary plans in place, the understanding of the concepts, the finance, the cash flows and all of those, that the whole package that one requires to have. And so we started to build a system of supports around that in terms of actually helping to empower the individuals with the knowledge. So with the training and the mentorship now coming as part and parcel of that, so that when they come through the door, they or reach out, we don't leave them hanging or say we can't help you, but go elsewhere and come back. So we started to really frame the programs that help them to put all of that in place, and so help them right from the beginning. As Filsan said, meet them where they're at. Is the same sort of concept and approach that we use, and really help them through those steps, and get them to a place where they are able to now feel more confident. I think building that confidence is a necessary part of the process as well, building the confidence. Some are coming into business without any foundational knowledge at all, so they're accessing some of this information, which can be intimidating at times. So really trying to make sure that it's accessible enough for everyone at all those different levels, that they are able to comfortably go through, learn, and then be at a place where they can say, I'm ready. I think I'm ready now and take away some of the sort of the scariness around financing, because when you talk about financing, when you talk about money, when you talk about borrowing, that can really put off a lot of people, and everybody's scared because, and we are working with people with lived experiences. They've experienced life that has probably put them in a place where they've met some challenges that have held them back, where the traditional system that we operate within isn't as nimble enough or as flexible enough to take into consideration some of those things, it's kind of, okay, do you have this or not? Check, then we can't help you, move on. Or they don't even facilitate that next step in terms of connecting them to or giving them that understanding of, okay, what is it that you need to work on so that you can come back and be successful in moving through the process and get to where you need to get to so that you can successfully launch your business, get the financing you need, and then off to the races in terms of operating your business and again continuing with those supports. So that's where we see those gaps, and we are building on all the programs that we have now. There are 2 accelerator programs that are focused on women entrepreneurs, one for newcomer women, the Women's Business Accelerator, and then our Women's Business Launch, which we just launched towards the end of last year. So this the first Women's Business Accelerator is really to give that foundational knowledge. And then the Women's Business Accelerator is taking those who have actually built on that foundational knowledge, and they're now ready to launch by providing additional support so that they can, feel confident enough to get out the door. And then now a Small Business Accelerator that helps everyone else in terms of whether you're male, you're female, and really want to get the essence of how to refine your plan, think through your idea, and get the financing that you need so that you can start your business. So we're working to deepen the programming that we had by constantly refining them, but also establishing new partnerships and collaborations that can further enhance and add value to all that we are doing right now, so that we can continue to add value and also continue to provide the best support that we can through the means and the capacity that we have.
Excellent. And I love how you're placing the blocks along the journey that entrepreneurs need to go through. So at every step, or no matter what stage they're in, Access is able to support them in that step and get them to the next milestone. And Michelle, would love to come to you next to talk about, you mentioned the consultations that you're going to be doing across Canada, but I'm curious some other key priorities you're working on that we can be aware of so that we can be engaged in supporting you going forward.
Sure, thank you. Oh, it's hard to choose because there's just so many amazing things happening. And I just got to give a shout out, like 80 people here on a Sunday to talk about community finance. That's just amazing. So shout out to SETSI and all of those who made this possible. And, in the spirit of collaboration, like it's just, I think it feeds well into one of our priorities, which is learning in networks and how are we a part of that. So if we think about community foundations, we know the unfunded report showed that, community finance and philanthropy isn't funding Black communities at the level that we could be, as one example. And so I think part of our work within the transformation is to be weaving into those conversations and to be talking about how do we leverage the 95% of a portfolio within a community foundation or within philanthropy to do good. And so we often get, we talk a lot about the granting side, and there's amazing things happening in that space as well. But there's this incredible amount of money sitting there that could be harnessed for community finance and to be really centering the communities most impacted to be making the decisions around what that looks like. So I guess a priority, and I can share in the chat, I love the community finance explainer that was in the Future of Good, kind of dives into what community finance is. So, a dream and a priority for me would be that every community foundation is thinking of themselves as an investor in their community that can really unlock things that the community sees as the need. So there's lots happening around affordable housing. When I used to be connected in with VERGE Capital, we were able to do a community bond to purchase a building. And there's just a sense of social cohesion and community that comes from that happening. So priorities being, these learning and networks, talking through equity and sovereignty, really thinking about how do we center community, how are we looking at the business model of philanthropy in new ways. And then another area that I get to work with Filsan all the time on is around Reimagining Power Project, which is looking at the Web3 and emerging technology space, and how can decentralized autonomous organizations, and how are we enabling, how is blockchain enabling new ways of being able to mobilize, distribute, and invest money in new ways. And so that's another project where we're actually doing some experiments, and it's very emergent. So we don't have the answers yet, but we have some really amazing opportunities. And emerging technologies was something I used to run away from. So it's only probably the last 3 years where I feel like I'm trying to get my head around Web3, blockchain, and AI, and not from a place of being technology first, but how are we human and planet first, and what is the technology enabling? And then maybe my last one might be transforming capital. We have a peer group that's been getting together to think about, like, how are we supporting each other and bringing some of the innovative ways or ways that we're not doing so well, and talk through those in a peer setting, and really talk about where is philanthropy falling behind, where are those opportunities for collaboration and innovation. And so we have a group. So these things that I'm talking about, whether it's the Web3 Reimagining Power Project, the Transforming Capital, these are all open to anybody who might want to be part of it. Or if you're hearing something where you're like, you should be hearing about what I'm doing, I'm all ears.
Love that. And again, the work that you're doing with the Community Foundations of Canada was so pivotal in the rollout of the Investment Readiness Program, and really want to thank you for being able to take on such a monumental task. But I'm curious some of the learnings that you had from that, because I know through the Black community, we're working on building that infrastructure as well. You were pivotal in being able to coordinate with the foundations for Black communities to have that direct type of financing for the Black community with their social enterprises. So now, as we start to continue that momentum and build out infrastructure, I'm curious tips on coordinating across Canada and different geographic areas, like things that you've learned and things that we can take away to follow that path and that blueprint.
Oh, I love that question. Well, when I came into CFC, a lot of that work was actually building, but I remember being on a call with Victor and others about that next step, and it's pretty cool to see where it's going. And I just met with one of the program coordinators from our team that's working bridging CFC and Foundation for Black Communities, and I asked him that exact question, like, what has the learning been? And I think that when you have those kind of partnerships, and you see how the Foundation for Black Communities in this situation have been using, I don't know if I'll have the right words, but I'm going to call them community circles, like, that are making these decisions. This is, this is how you really do center the community. And so how would community foundations be doing that in deep, meaningful ways? And so I haven't been like in the day-to-day piece of it, but I think that when the learning comes back into Community Foundations of Canada, how can we help to be like a voice to share that out to community foundations in the ways that FFBC wants to see that happen? So I'd be excited, for I know it's happening, and I think there's more that we can be doing. So thanks, Ryan, for raising that one.
They appreciate it. And Filsan, would love to kind of hear from you, your thoughts on the future of community finance, and with the work that you're doing and things that you're seeing get to start, where do you feel the future is going? And optimistic or pessimistic, we're always open throughout the whole conference. We've gone on both sides. So curious to get your perspective.
Thanks, Ryan. That's such an important question. I'm an optimist by nature. But definitely particularly optimistic about the future of social finance in Canada. I think we are at such a really important time where we see, not only do we obviously have the momentum from the government participating in the social finance fund, being a reality now, but we have such a great, I think, perspective and expertise that are shifting things in terms of the community. So some of what Michelle had mentioned, right? The importance of FFBC being there. at the table now and bringing a different perspective. So when we're talking about things like community, like how capital is being given, Ubuntu practices. So I think there is throughout the ecosystem, I think there's such a we have people who are, I think, bringing a lot of shape, bringing a lot of perspective, and bringing in things that might have been not seen as traditional, social finance as the ecosystem emerges, but really coming from people's lived experience. So whether you are coming from your practices of social finance within your own communities, whether it is coming from, Susu practices, Hagbad practices, and bringing that into this, adding to this vocabulary of what's already, social finance in Canada, and really expanding the imagination. So I'm really excited about that personally. I'm also really excited and motivated when we have so many convenings, spaces like this, and many more that are really bringing different minds, different experiences, different perspectives. And I think we all sort of walk away from these convenings with such a great, not only optimism and hope, but also a catalyst of, we all have, I think, new ideas each time. So it's always interesting when, when convenings happen. And then I always think about the conversations that happen after that lead to initiatives and that lead to more things emerging. And Michelle mentioned the work that Michelle and I are privileged to be part of a DAO called Reimagine Power. So really also interested in how that is going to add and amplify the impact in the ecosystem. And I think we are, geographically speaking, Canada, I think, has a lot to learn from other geographies. And so really looking forward to how we can also even go cross-border knowledge sharing and how we can continue to grow the ecosystem. And, there's also been a lot of great conversations of entrepreneurs who I have been connected to at, and Verge Capital, but are also thinking now, hey, well, we want to start a fund too. Like if we support, a set of entrepreneurs, well, can we do something like this? And I'm always like, absolutely. So being able to share that knowledge and give a roadmap and connect those people to a lot of the great work and initiative that a lot of folks are doing, and particular catalyst community finance, which is really that is the main aim, to continue providing knowledge and scaling and making it easier for folks to start up.
Excellent. And thank you so much for that, Filsan. And Otis, I'll go to you next just to get your perspective on the future of community finance and where you feel even where access is going and things that we can follow along.
Yeah, I think the future of community finance is bright. There is opportunities here where the investing for purpose, less for profit, is and should be sort of at the front end of the spectrum instead of as an afterthought. And I think the impact of microfinance, and I'm speaking here from the work that we do with our clients and seeing how they are coming from a place of limited opportunities, barriers that they faced in accessing the financing, and being able to then be given an opportunity through community microfinance instead of the traditional system, where it takes a different outlook in terms of how we view and evaluate where they're at. We're not just looking at checking boxes. We want to understand where they're coming from. What are the things that they've gone through? What are those lived experiences that have brought them to a place where they are unable to tag on to the mainstream system? And why are they being shut out or limited from accessing the traditional financing through those systems? And that approach then helps us in terms of informing the decisions that are made in terms of approving, financing and facilitating their access to it through the work we do with Alterna as our, financial partner in that regard. So I think, when you hear the stories from, individuals who have been traditionally told, okay, let's review what you have in terms of where you're coming from, credit report first, and well, your credit report doesn't look good, so the conversation ends there. Through the programs that we've been able to offer and through the work that I've seen us doing at Access, I've seen the hope for the future that individuals end up with when they realize, okay, there is an opportunity here where, yes, I need to work on certain things so that I can be prepared to launch, but there are other things that I could also get support with so that I'm ready to, get to a stage where I'm able to get the financing I need. Yes, life happens with everybody, but to hold it to them, that's the reason why we can't give you the chance to realize your goal of starting your business, scaling your business, because of certain things that could be worked around. That's where I think the community microfinance has, the potential to really play a major role in terms of opening up the access to financing for many more underserved and emerging entrepreneurs who traditionally can't go through other systems that are in place. And so when I hear the stories from one of our clients, and I'll bring up where they say, you gave me an opportunity through this program, and now I went from receiving a T4, because when I was working, I was receiving a T4. Now, through my business, I'm giving out T4s because I've been able to now employ others. That's life-changing, right? There's nothing that is more rewarding to hear than that when it comes to and that's exactly speaks to the value that and the impact that community microfinance has. You're looking beyond what traditionally the system that is in place is designed to consider when evaluating and assessing the potential of these individuals. Because when you constantly are looking at what should traditionally just be things that focused on keeping them out of the system, then people lose hope, people lose confidence, because then they are just almost focused on, okay, well, I've got this idea, I can't really launch it because, I've been told no before, and it's probably going to be a no again. So community microfinance, I think, has that the impact to change the lives of individuals and to open up that that space and give access to those who traditionally have been, and hopefully the mainstream can learn from the model of the community microfinance and take some learnings from there, not the other way around, because we've traditionally sort of used the traditional system as the benchmark. But what about the other way? Why don't we focus it on the other way and actually through the convenings and through collaborations kind of get to learn more, and maybe there can be a tweak in the system that helps to shift that those goalposts so that many more can go through the traditional system, and placing a bit more emphasis on the potential. Because when you entrust people and give them the confidence that you are behind them, they've got what it takes, they've got the skills, they've got, they push through. They push through the challenges and the adversities, and I've seen that happen. Because even though you might consider them, okay, this is a very sort of a red case scenario that we're not even going to entertain, when you give them hope, and by giving them that opportunity through microfinance, community microfinance, it actually helps shift the the whole outlook. And by giving them that confidence, you're actually empowering. That's the whole purpose of empowerment. It's not about, come with all the tools in the bag. It's about, okay, let's help you through as many ways as we can, so that we give you that fighting chance, and support you along the way too. Not just, okay, you're off to the races and good luck, but supporting them along the way as well.
And I love that because it really resonates with the journey I went on, and Access being there to support me with the business at certain points when others were saying no. And then it's really, as you said, empowering. And one other thing, just before I ask you the next question, I do want to say that I'm proud of the work that you've been doing. I see you progressing through the ranks and becoming more influential and really supporting us as business owners, and also being a role model. I have a son, and making sure that we see more Black brothers like you really being that role model that we can aspire to. So following your footsteps, just wanted to give you your flowers before I forget, because you might not hear it from the entrepreneurs that you work with, but I hear it as I talk to entrepreneurs and I send them your way. So I just wanted to say thank you for the work you do, brother.
Thank you, Ryan.
And so the next question, you mentioned about trying to track the progress. So in terms of community finance, how do you feel about like impact measurement? And are there any promising models that are ways to track the impact that Access is doing that we could model?
Yeah, I think we also still building that model for impact measurement, but using the proven systems in place. But when you look at what we have in place and you speak to entrepreneurs directly, you realize that it's not only about numbers. It's not only about talking about numbers and checking your traditional boxes of, oh, this is who we traditionally serve, which is great. But when you hear those lived experience like the one that I shared, it's not going to appear in any data that you're going to see,
Exactly.
coming out as it is. It's really about engaging more directly with those lived experiences who are facing the barriers, and not just the survey that's sent out and getting the data through there and compiling it, and then lo and behold, here's the report. But being able to engage at that personal level, and someone just needed the confidence boost. Someone just needed the yes, you can do this.
Yeah.
Yes,
How do you track that?
how do you track that?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And so I think it should go just beyond the traditional models that are in place, which are great. But I think the human aspect of, and I think that's what makes community microfinance, great, is because being able to communicate and to talk through things with real people and not just seeing them as numbers. And then sending a report every so often, every quarterly, every annually, compile whatever you need to compile. But it's being able to really connect and hear the stories, in the front row seat from those who are experiencing those challenges on the ground, and really tracking that journey that in many ways cannot be quantified, but can only be, sort of brought to light by their experiences as they go through from, the initiation of the idea to, where they end up, or in checking with them throughout the process. So, not leaving anyone behind, and helping them along the way. We want to create systems that help create generational wealth. This is not just about a paycheck that they get from their venture or from their part-time. We want to make sure that Canada benefits of, whether it's the local economy and the national economy, but more importantly, it's the individuals and their families that create that generational wealth that's going to last beyond just that individual, so that it begins to create a ripple effect that's going to really make Canada even more prosperous, from the diversity of ideas and the diversity of individuals that have come together and are working towards a common goal and common purpose.
Wonderful. And Michelle, would love to come to you next to get your thoughts on, of course, the importance of impact measurement with community finance, and any promising models, or maybe models that Community Foundations of Canada are using that are promising in the ways that you track your impact.
Well, I think when I think about impact measurement, I think about even just what's been happening here with Otis sharing some of the stories. I'll focus on, there's lots of ways that we can kind of come at impact measurement, but what's showing up for me a bit is that sometimes when you're doing work like the transformation work I'm doing, where we're talking about systems change, you lose sight of, you can get disconnected from the individual entrepreneurs or the communities. And so I think just the importance of those individual stories that are collectively like weaved together in order to tell the impact of, whether it's like a fund or an organization that's trying to do something. So one of the threads of work that we're doing in the transformation work is called storytelling and narrative shifting. And we have 4 storytelling fellows. And we developed this program 3 years ago. I had this amazing student, Matson Kitamisi, who helped to dream this up over a summer role. And now we've had, this is, I think, 7 storytelling fellows who are helping to really amplify those stories. And we have one right now who's focused on transforming capital. And so something I haven't said yet that would fit with impact measurement is when I was presenting and sharing to about 40 Latin American community foundations in December, they kindly nudged to say, I think your approach, it feels like it's like very centered around financial capital. So how and even though I know like social infrastructure, we've talked all about these words, but just getting right down to like, how are we looking when we think about impact measurement or community finance? How are we mobilizing capital, both social, financial, political, narrative, cultural, and technological capital? And I'm sure I'm missing some, but just really looking at all those. And when we think about impact measurement, how do we leverage that? So for me, the stories that come from those communities that are those individual stories, I think are just so imperative. And we see that happening within community foundations. And so one great example is Edmonton Community Foundation has done some really good storytelling with the Somali community, but recognizing that stories don't always need to be in perpetuity either, because there's times where they serve a community and there's times where they don't. And so I think, yeah, I'm on my own journey to really think about impact measurement, storytelling, and narrative shifting, and what will that look like if you're really centering equity and sovereignty, and who gets to tell stories, and what is the time and the pacing for that.
Yeah, and I noticed when we talk to entrepreneurs and social enterprises, when they're telling stories, there's nuggets that you can pull out that you can track, but you only get to hear about it through the full context of the story. So the way approaching getting people to tell their stories, I think, is remarkable. And Filsan, would love to hear from you, either your perspective on how you track impact measurement, or different trends or even promising models that you've been using with VERGE or the work with SVX.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So at present, VERGE is aligned with the SDGs. So the way we track our impact measurement is in accordance to the SDGs. So for instance, we communicate to our community, investors, and the entire ecosystem what each portfolio company contributes to in the region of Southern Ontario in accordance to the SDG, so that can go to from whether they're contributing to SDG 3 to 4 to 10. So we communicate what in their operations contributes to that. We are, I will say though, on a journey to expand our own tracking, and are looking to one of the things that Catalyst Community Finance Initiative is also planning to assist with the impact measurements and looking at different tools. And so we are on a journey ourselves to also really expand how we track impact, and a part of that comes from also the need, I think, to take into account a lot of different measurements, a lot of things that are not in the current measurement. So a lot of what has been said by both Otis and Michelle. So really the human element of things. And I think I'll say this, like personally, I think it's really important when we're talking about impact to ensure, and I think this speaks wider to community finance. We have to, as we grow, ensure that we are not forgetting our roots as community and becoming traditional in the sense of identity wise, and forgetting that, hey, these are the ways that we're very different from traditional finance. It's great to take some elements of traditional finance and also replicate that in the ways it serves the community. But I think when we talk about impact measurement, I think it's really important to look at different communities. So how do different communities, and how have many oral communities for so on, how there are ways that they've been tracking the impact from generation to generation. So how can we take that, and obviously storytelling being a core element, how can we take that because we are working with communities and serving communities. So how do we take that then and then, you know, mix it with what systems we currently have in place? I think there's a lot of room for imagination, you know, left. And I think I'm excited when we talk about impact measurement. It is definitely a confusing field and there's different frameworks now, but I'm excited when we talk about impact measurements and add in the element of who is saying this story and who is it coming from, and adding the storytelling aspect to the said tools that we have. So yeah, definitely, you know, in short, we are in a journey and looking forward to be open-minded and expand our learnings and share with others.
Wonderful. And as we start to wind down the conversation, Otis, would love to get even some closing thoughts from you or calls to action for the audience that we can do to support the work that you're engaged in.
Yes, as they say, it takes a village. And as the age-old African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I think we want to create meaningful collaborations. We are not, as in the sector, out to compete. We are here to serve the common good. So I think many of those collaborations that can be made and come together in order to reinforce and to really create more capacity and add more value and create a deeper impact. I think that's where we want to see many of us coming together in the space so that we can help shift those, remove those barriers, build those bridges, and create more space for everyone to reach their potential, to really flourish in using their talents and their skills, and by giving confidence, by supporting them throughout the journey in whatever capacity we can. So bringing all of our capacities together, not in a competing type of way, but in a more collaborative and focused on going together as opposed to going fast. and really serving to ensure that we are all aligned in creating that space to allow individuals and their families to thrive and to really create that generational wealth and continue to live the life that they've imagined and even beyond.
Excellent. And Filsan, I'd love to come back to you just to get your closing thoughts and any calls to action for the audience that's here so that we can keep engaged with the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in terms of first thing that comes to mind called as a call to action, just you know, just be involved, take part in any way you can, any capacity. When we're talking about community finance, community is the heart of everything. So, you know, that can be in different ways, whether, you know, we talked about, Michelle mentioned community bond early on, whether there's a community bond taking part in your community, you do have the opportunity to support that, whether it's coming on as an investor. And I think when I talk about investor, I think we have a lot of you know, preset conditions and understandings of who's an investor. So what I'm really interested in is changing who's an investor, because everybody in the community can be, you know, in some way or another. So just being able to take part, reach out. Anybody who's interested, I see some folks who are interested in the DAO that Michelle had mentioned. So welcome, please join us. We're more than excited to engage and go on that journey together. And I think volunteering as well. I think for, you know, there's always different opportunities to like knowledge share. I have the privilege and honor to volunteer with Access Community Capital. And everything that Otis said is absolutely true. And with the entrepreneurs, it's really unlike any other program I've seen. But on the flip side too, as a volunteer, there's so much that I've learned personally from that role. So I think there's also a lot to be said on that side too, as the importance of volunteering and staying connected.
Amazing. And again, we really appreciate you being here to give us this perspective. And Michelle, we'll close out with you just to get your thoughts on the future of community finance and closing thoughts and calls to action that our audience can take part in the work that you're doing.
Well, maybe the call to action, I feel like when I look at the crowd, I'm like, okay, there's so many amazing people here.
Yes.
And so, you know, the call to action is probably, yeah, like what is, yeah, how can we make sure that we're really hearing the voices of those who have joined us today? And so feel free to reach out. Of course, join us if you can for the Catalyst Community Finance Summit in Saskatoon, or there's other ways to weave into the work for sure that you don't need to be there. And if you feel like, oh, this community finance space sounds a little bit nebulous, it is. Like, it can feel like it takes a bit to get our head around because there's so much that it can include. And so so feel free to jump in and just come be part of it. And I had somebody say to me the other day, I think it's fitting for community finance, and I see Charles from Technology Helps, of just like who has access to be part of these spaces around community finance, or whether it's, you know, some of the super benefit DAO, like how are we helping to change access points, and like in my case, making sure that there's ways for those pathways to happen that are more just more inclusive. And so so if I think about the work I've been exploring in the emerging technology, I know there's amazing work happening around how we use it, but I'm actually more interested in how we get amazing people like who are on this call shaping it, because as we know right now, there's so much bias in these different spaces. And so how can we get people who are bringing a real social justice, heart-centered approach, and, you know, centering planet and humans into that space, so that we can make sure that these very, you know, these opportunities and disruptions of technology are something that we can harness and shape together.
Amazing. And again, as we close, I would really want to say thank you to the almost 100 people that joined us for this session on a beautiful Sunday, the last panel of the 2024 People's Social Impact Conference. And we have our closing address at 6 p.m. Eastern. So all those that are here, please join us at 6 o'clock to close out with Shady from the Association of Friendship Centers. And also, yes, we also wanted to close the way that we began, in acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for the collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you again. It is not lost on us, you taking your time to be with us this Sunday afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you at the 6 o'clock closing keynote by Shady. And again, thank you to our panelists, really enlightening conversation. And I would say the people being here, it's a testament to how important community finance is. So I want to thank you for your perspectives and your calls to action for us to be more engaged. So thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you in a few hours. Later.
Thank you.